Your comments on our recent video about what I wish I'd known when I bought in South Africa were absolute gold. Lots of smart questions about deposits, registration, timelines, banking, getting a mortgage as a foreigner. In fact, at the time of recording this video, we're over 180 comments, which is great for our channel, and we really appreciate that engagement and feedback. And in fact, it's what has inspired me to record this week's video, because I want to answer many of the questions that you posed in the comments. Now, we've pulled out the most asked questions, and today I want to keep things really practical. Yes, I see the political comments and we respect them, but today we want to be practical and focus on the how. And yes, we also see the locals versus foreigner affordability, and again, totally respect them. And to be quite honest, I really don't know what the answer is, because I don't want to be a foreigner that's pricing locals out of the market, but then again, we are bringing lots of money into the South African economy. Now, we can't speak for everyone, but today we are sharing with you our process and our real numbers, so you can stress test whether this is something that you might want to do as well, whether that's buying in South Africa or anywhere else in the world. The advice that I'm going to share today, I think, applies everywhere. So as I said, we had over 180 comments at the time of recording this video, and I want to jump in and answer some of the most consistent and common questions. And the first comment that I got a lot was that you need to put 50% deposit down when you make an offer on an apartment. And as I said in the intro, this is incorrect. You actually need to pay a 10% deposit, which is non-refundable. So if you pull out, you would lose that deposit. Now, if you need to get a mortgage or a bond in South Africa, well, as a foreigner, they will only offer up to 50%. And I think that's where the confusion came. So if you are seeking to get a mortgage in South Africa, or a bond as they call it in South Africa, then know that you will still need to have 50% of the value of the place that you're buying in cash. The second question that came up a lot in the comments was, how long does the whole process take from making an offer and that being accepted to actually moving in the apartment? Now, we were a cash buyer, so we didn't need to secure a bond, so we removed that issue from the table. And in fact, for us, it's super quick. We made the offer in March 2024, and we took ownership of the property by May of 2024. So that is March, April, May, only 3 months. Now, we were a super motivated buyer, and I wanted to get as much done as I could while I was still in South Africa. So we made sure that we responded to our lawyers really quickly. We were available to sign documents. And one of the things that I really love about the South African process is that, well, the lawyers that we use, but I believe this is true with other places as well, every Friday we got an email with a checklist on it showing exactly what had happened that week and dates of when things were due to happen in the future. Now, this did two things. First of all, it kept us up to date, but second of all, it kept us off the lawyer's back. And if I contrast that to the buying process and selling process in the UK, and if you've been following this vlog, you'll know that we're in the middle of doing that in the UK at the moment. We have to chase our lawyers for everything. They're seriously poor at communicating. They don't give us any updates unless there's something they need from us. So we are finding that every week we are kind of chasing our lawyers to say, hey, what's going on? And compare that to South Africa, where the process is much more straightforward. Now, another thing that really made this process easy for us, and probably meant that we could complete it in that 12-week period, was the fact that we chose to use the same lawyer for the buyer and the seller. Now, some people have commented before that that creates a conflict of interest, and that might be true if there are some complexities in the purchase. But for us, it just meant none of this waiting for one lawyer to communicate for the other and then 2 or 3 days before they respond, which is what's been going on in the UK. And we really think that the thing that really slows things down here is the fact that lawyers are really slow to respond. And in some respects, you could argue, if you're cynical, that it's in the best interest of the lawyers to take as long as possible because they make more money. Whereas in South Africa, we chose to use the same lawyer for both the buyer and the seller, and that made the process really fast and meant we could complete in this fairly short time scale. Now, in South Africa, the things that potentially slow you down are getting the compliance certificates which you need for water and for electricity, and also getting the deeds from the deed office. And obviously we have no control over how long that takes, and that's part of what stretched things out to the 12-week period. Okay, the next question I want to answer is all about rental income and the tax implications as a foreigner. Again, this was a comment and a question that lots of people left in the video from the other week. Now, it's worth saying because our rental income is sourced in South Africa, it means we have to be registered and pay tax in South Africa. And my first bit of advice here is to find a really good accountant. We spoke to lots of different accountants who gave us wildly conflicting advice, but we actually went with a recommendation from a friend, and she was able to help us get our SARS tax reference number, which is something that you will need as a taxpayer in South Africa. Now, some of the accountants we spoke to made this really complicated. They said you needed to go down to the local tax office, queue up and do all that stuff, whereas in fact our accountant was able to do this within 30 seconds online. So find a good accountant. They are going to be worth their weight in gold. Now, if you don't have a South African ID, and I don't have a South African ID yet, then you can use your passport to get your SARS tax reference number. So that means I think about 3 times a year we file a tax return where we declare our rental income, and of course that's offset by any of our costs. So costs will include things like your levies, your insurances, and any other costs, and therefore we're hoping, at least in year 1, that we won't be paying very much tax at all because we won't have made very much profits. Now, the next question I want to answer, again, a common comment, was all about banking as a foreigner or a non-resident. Now, this was perhaps one of the more complicated processes, as some people have said in the comments. We opened a bank account with FNB, which is one of the common high street banks in South Africa, and we had to have, I think, 2 or 3 meetings with them and take lots of paperwork with us. And my advice to you would be to book the meeting in advance. And ironically, I'll come back to this, but you needed a South African phone number to make the booking. You can go into a branch and type on one of their screens or do it online. So what I did was I grabbed one of the people that work in the bank and they set the meeting up for me. And if you do it like that, then you don't have to sit around waiting your turn, which can be quite a long time if you just walk into the bank off the streets. So you are going to need your passport, you're going to need proof of address, you are going to need any residency or visa documents, and you're also going to need your FICA number, which is basically a way of verifying who you are to avoid any kinds of money laundering. So like I said, we had 2 or 3 meetings and we went back and we were given our banking card, and we also wanted to use our online banking. And one of the slight complexities here is you needed a South African phone number, which we didn't have at the time. So my advice there would be just to go and grab a SIM card from Vodacom or equivalent that you can buy for sort of 50 Rand and put a very little amount of data in it. That will give you a phone number and you can use that, and then you can receive a text message to your phone which can activate your banking. Now, if you want to keep that number, you need to use the phone at least every 3 months. And so if you're going to use it outside of South Africa, then you need to go into the store and help them set that up so that it will work internationally as well. Now, one other thing to say about banking, which is a bit of a pain in the backside if I'm honest with you, is that because we are receiving income into our non-resident's bank account every single month, we often get an email from their compliance department asking for evidence of what this money is or where it came from. And so we then send them our rental receipt. We have a managing agent that looks after the apartment, and they then release the money into our account. So that's something else to be aware of, because that can delay the funds actually getting into your account. Now, we are planning on becoming residents and we've applied for a residency, but that is a topic for another video that I'm not going to jump into today. But we will be recording a video about the very, very, very long and painful process that we have gone through to be able to apply for our residency. So look out for that in the future. And of course, if you're enjoying these videos, then make sure that you have subscribed so that you're alerted when a new video goes live every single week. Now, the next question I want to answer is about any kinds of ongoing or hidden costs, because doesn't it sound fantastic? Oh my God, you're getting 20,000 Rand a month of income. But of course, there are a number of costs that you need to factor in that will lower that number quite considerably. So you need to budget every month for your municipal rates, for your levies, for your water and electricity bills, for any kind of building and contents insurance, for electricity, for internet, and also having a buffer for repairs as well. And piece of advice, if you're buying an apartment like we have, then take out contents insurance. It doesn't cost that much, but it means if things go wrong, then you can claim on insurance. And since we've been renting the apartment over the last 18 months, the washing machine has broken, the fridge has broken, and then the fridge has broken again. So we got the fridge repaired, and we didn't have insurance at the time. It cost us quite a lot, and now we've had to replace the fridge altogether, and we're claiming on insurance. So don't try and cut costs here, because it will cost you more in the long run, especially if you're renting the apartment out and you don't know what damage might happen to the apartment. Also look out for any additional extraordinary costs. This year, we've had to pay a bit more money if our levies into the body corporate, that's the managing agent that manages our apartment block, because there's been some damp issues on one of the external walls, and we've all had to pay towards the remediation of that. Now, what you'll pay will be based on the size of your apartment, and our apartment is actually the smallest apartment in the block, so it's not too much. It's about an additional £60 a month for the next 6 months, but just be really mindful that you will need to have a pot of money for these extraordinary costs if something goes wrong, or if you have to pay some additional costs as we are right now. And also, talking of additional costs, when you're actually buying, don't forget that you've got conveyancing costs for your solicitor, but you've also got transfer duty as well. This is the amount of money that you pay when it's being transferred into your name. We call it stamp duty in the UK, but it's called transfer duty in South Africa. Okay, the next question I want to answer is about some of the realities to do with utilities, i.e. water and electricity, because yes, we have had some outages, or load shedding as they call it. I've spoken about this many times before, and of course there were lots of comments about this in the previous video, either good comments saying we haven't had any load shedding for 3 or 4 months, which is true, or people saying don't buy in South Africa because of the issues with water and power. And the realities are that load shedding is nowhere near as bad as it used to be since the general election in 2024, but it hasn't disappeared altogether. It hasn't happened at the moment because South Africa's in their winter and their demand is lower, because obviously people haven't got their air conditioning on as much and there are far less tourists there. So we'll see what it's like when we go back next summer and the demand is up. My advice is 2 things really. One is understand what the provision is for load shedding in your building, because a lot of apartment blocks especially have their own backup power supplies. Ours doesn't, except for the lifts and external lights. Then make sure that you've got an uninterrupted power supply for your Wi-Fi, so if there is power going off, you can still at least access your Wi-Fi and use a battery operated laptop. And we originally were going to get a battery and an inverter installed in the apartment. We have a cupboard next door to our apartment and we were going to put it in there. That was going to cost us about £6,000. But since load shedding has disappeared, we are glad we didn't make that investment. Instead, we have a small portable battery that we can plug our laptop in, our lights and our TV, so that if there are power cuts, which there were a few last year, we still can watch TV and operate our power and have Wi-Fi and so on. So that is something that you want to factor in. And there has also been water shortages. As you know, in 2018, the water almost disappeared completely in South Africa, but since then it's not been too bad. But what I noticed where we live in Bantry Bay is the fact that there has been some issues with water supply because of burst mains and other issues, and that's been happening quite frequently. So again, just something to be mindful of. It's always worth having a couple of big bottles of water just in case. So just to sort of summarize this, where did we buy? Well, we ended up buying in Bantry Bay. We were looking around the Sea Point, Green Point, Fresnay areas, and we'd have loved to buy in Bantry Bay, but as you know, it's quite an expensive area, and we just found an apartment that was on the border of Sea Point and Bantry Bay, and so we were lucky enough there. We wanted somewhere where we could walk into Sea Point and be in a really lively area and have shops and coffee shops nearby. And so Bantry Bay suits us really well. It's literally a 5-minute walk from my place down to the sea and into Sea Point itself. And one of the things about that, of course, yes, it is much more touristy, but because it's more touristy, it also feels safer as well. Now, I know a lot of people mentioned security in the comments, and I just want to say, first of all, we are really lucky that in 11 years, touch wood, nothing bad has happened to us, although I have heard stories of people being mugged and so on before. So you have to be on your lookout and apply common sense. Don't let the sun or being on vacation make you lose your common sense. So don't walk around with your camera and valuables poking out your pockets. Make sure you keep your windows up and your doors locked when you are driving. Don't leave your wallet and your phone hanging around on your seat because you're asking for trouble. And don't walk on your own at night. Get an Uber, they're super cheap, they're everywhere, and you just give yourself peace of mind that you're going to be as safe as you possibly can be. Now I just want to touch again a bit on sort of money, because we paid 2.88 million for our apartment fully furnished. It's probably worth about 3.1 million now. It's 58 square meters and we have it on a medium let. It's worth finding out from the apartment you're buying whether you can do short-term lets, i.e. Airbnb. Well, we can't, and we knew that from the beginning, and we prefer to do it on a medium-term to long-term let. Yes, of course you're going to earn less money, but you have the security that someone's living there and it's their home. So we, as I said, get 20,000 Rand a month, and that gives us a gross yield of about 8.3% before costs, which met our personal targets of what we wanted to achieve. And of course your numbers will vary depending on your situation. So let's wrap this up with a few kind of myth-busting questions that came up in the comments that I can answer really quickly and put your minds at rest if you've never been to South Africa before. So first of all, is Cape Town just for wealthy tourists? Absolutely not. We live a really normal life when we're there, and it's very affordable. It's about 40% less cost of living than it is in the UK, and of course the weather is so much better there, and there is so much more to do on your doorstep. Is it dangerous to walk around at night? Well, I've already answered that question in the previous section. Use your common sense. Get an Uber, don't walk on your own at night, and you'll be absolutely fine. Do you need to hire a rental car in Cape Town? Absolutely not. You'd be surprised at how close things are in Cape Town and how easy it is to get around. You could take a bus, or as I say, you can take an Uber or a local taxi to get to all the places that you want to go. If you want to go a bit further afield outside of Cape Town, then absolutely rent a car. Do you need to tip in restaurants? Well, I would say absolutely yes. If you've had great service, then 10 to 15% is standard, and servers are going to really appreciate you for doing that. Next question I got asked is tap water safe to drink? And the answer is yes. In Cape Town, it absolutely is safe to drink, and apparently it's tested regularly. Next question is, will my phone work there? Well, my Vodafone UK phone does work in Cape Town because I have a package that covers 83 countries, including South Africa. But if that's not the case for your phone, then just buy a SIM card in any of the many mobile phone shops that are available. You don't pay a huge amount of money and you can get what you need. Someone else commented about load shedding and power cuts, and I just want to acknowledge again, yes, they do happen. Be prepared, don't be surprised, but they don't happen that frequently anymore, which is good to know. Is eating out expensive? Absolutely not. If you want to have an amazing world-class steak, then you're going to pay half the price, or even less than half the price, than what you would in the UK, and I guarantee you that the steak quality will be better. Next question was, how does South Africa cater to vegans or vegetarians? And the answer is really, really well. They have a world-class cuisine that caters for all tastes and all food tolerances as well. People have asked what's the best time of year to go. Should I only go in Cape Town summer? And I answered that in a previous video, and I'll put a link to that up above. But no, you can go during the winter, especially if you want to go whale watching, or you want to see the lush winelands and the spring flowers. And of course, you're going to find it's much cheaper then, and there are a lot less tourists there. And of course, again, it depends which part of South Africa you go to, because the climate is really different in different areas. In our recent video on stuff I wish I'd known about Cape Town before I bought there, you left so many fantastic questions and comments, from safety to areas that we should visit, from politics of South Africa to what a stunningly beautiful place it is. Now, I hope I've answered them in this video, but do keep the comments coming, because it means that my content is resonating with you guys, which is the most important thing. You know what, here's the thing, Cape Town is far from perfect. I totally acknowledge all of the issues around inequalities and also some of the politics, but it is a magical place. It's where the mountains meet the oceans. It's where you can sip world-class wines for the same price that you'd pay for a cup of coffee in the UK. And it's a place full of some of the friendliest people that we've ever met. So now over to you. Is Cape Town your favourite place on earth? Or if you visited other places that you think are better, do leave a comment. Now just know that we read and respond to every single comment, and as I said, they help form and shape future video content, as indeed your comments helped form this video. And when you're done, dive into our other Cape Town and South Africa videos. I'll leave a link to the playlist here and see some of our favourite areas of South Africa and let us know what yours are as well. But other than that, it is Rob and James is upstairs working, but hopefully next time he will be able to join us and we will see you next time.